Edo State Governor Kontinu Obaseki don yarn states for south-south region of Nigeria to collaborate to improve human capital development for the zone. Obaseki tok dis one for the South-South Human Capital Development Regional Conference wey shele for Benin City and come still chook mouth for how to get ogbonge human capital for South-South. Governor Obaseki wey chook mouth well on top healthcare say government need to improve healthcare for the country.
We cannot develop without the people, without developing the capacity of our people to produce. If our people are not healthy, they cannot be economic agents. They will not be productive. They will not be able to contribute their quota to the state. They will not be able to pay taxes. So we will not develop. So it's about people. People, people, people. So what are the issues with healthcare? What has gone wrong? How can't we tell as a government when a child is born? So that we can document that child, so that we can immunize that child, so that we can know that that child is being fed and fed properly. Because except we think properly and think through how to deal with the fundamental issues, then we'll be trying to play catch up. So for us, I think the emphasis must be on primary health care and making sure that every woman who is pregnant is tracked to the primary health care center closest to her abode of residence. Because if you document that woman, document that child or those children, then you should be able to follow up with the training you give to your primary healthcare workers on immunization. So you stop making immunization some national day celebrations. We should stop ceremonizing healthcare and deal with it as an everyday issue. Because if you know where a child has been born, if that birth has been recorded, the immunization records are there, then you'll also be able to follow through to see whether that child is being fed or not, or malnourished. So I think enough of the bureaucracy. We should now step down and come down to our people. And let's behave like normal people who are living in a normal society. For us in Edo, what I've realized is, let's just focus on the basics. Because growing up in Nigeria worked at a time. We didn't have the technology we have today, 50 years ago, 60 years ago. But I recall very vividly that in my grandmother's village in Ubiaja, as way back during the Civil War, there were dispensaries. And weekends, on Saturdays, we had to go, they had to give us Daraprim, our Sunday medicine, to prevent malaria. Monthly, quarterly, we had to be dewormed. So we had systems that worked. And these systems worked because they were decentralized. There was no central authority from Lagos or whatever the capital was at that time. These matters were handled at the local government levels. So in all our conversations, we must understand that except we strengthen the basics, the anchors of our governance, then which will also be ceremonies, plenty money, plenty budget, and plenty grammar. We must now think about it that, look, the bulk of our resources, the bulk of our spend should now be prioritized where we can reach most of our people. Because if you take care, you have your community health workers, you have your nurses who are providing services at that level, then you'll be able to reach more people before they get ailments that now require secondary or tertiary attention.
Obaseki say healthcare no cheap at all and say healthcare must cover majority of the people.
Healthcare financing, it's not cheap. So how do we ensure that for those of us who have set up health insurance schemes, how do we ensure coverage? How do we tie in these schemes to our people? So if you have a scheme, you're operating a health insurance scheme in Edo with 5 million people, and you're not covering 1 million to 1.5 million minimum, that scheme cannot be viable. And why is it not possible? Why can't we define and tune those policies to align with the economic flows or economic income of our people? There's no market today where these women or some people don't save on a daily basis, right? They have their isusus, right? So why can't you tie health insurance into isusu schemes so that it's easy to pay 50 naira a day or 100 naira a day, 5 naira a week, 20 naira a month, for your policy. But if you are collecting money from me, then make sure that my primary healthcare center in my markets or in my place of work works. And when I go there, I get, genuine drugs or medicines. So, reach, coverage, and data is what we should emphasize to drive our.
On top education and how Edo they do for education matter, Obaseki konya the problems when Edo State they face for education matter.
We thank you for all the nice things and accolades we keep receiving about Edo Best and the transformation we have undertaken in the primary and basic education system. We had no choice. Because if you realized the challenge we had in 2016, where Edo was the butt of jokes across this country. Because at one point in time, you had more than 30,000 young Edo boys and girls in Libya waiting to cross over to Europe. And once we began to tackle the issue of human trafficking and irregular migration, as IOM, one of our partners here today, helped us in bringing back these kids, our task force went into every aircraft to welcome these children back home. And we took down their data. And we realized that the problem, the challenge, was because the educational system was broken. So it's not an issue of school. We have schools. We've had a tradition of education. We don't have problem with out of school children here. In the South-South, that is not our challenge. In the South-South, I don't think our challenge is even the girl child. My mother, as far back as 1932, went to school. Her father sent her to school. Our problem today is the quality of education we receive in those schools. How much investments are we making in those schools? Something happened to us as a country until the military came, where, and you know that education is basically a residual matter. It's a matter that needs to be dealt with at the local level. Up till the coming of the military, when the local governments were effective and efficient and decentralized, the quality of education was monitored by government. Government had a responsibility to ensure that the education was provided, but government was not the main provider. The situation you have today is, yes, we acquired most of those schools as government, but we have no means of maintaining and providing the quality of education that we should. So what has happened is that the operator, the biggest operator in the educational space today is government. The person who is supposed to regulate is government. So he cannot regulate himself. That is the major challenge we have with education. So the Ministry of Education that supervises education is the same one that's hiring the teachers to teach. So we've got to look much deeper to understand in our zone why we are having the challenges, the kind of challenge and that we have with education. And that our challenge is the quality of education that we offer, particularly in our public school system, as now government is the largest provider of educational services. So for Edo Best, it was about learning outcomes, not the fact of being in school. We don't have a problem going to school. Our problem is when the child is in school, are we sure that that child is learning? And how do we ensure that that child learns? First, the teacher has to be in class. If the teacher is not there, the child cannot learn. How do we ensure and monitor that that teacher is in class? Secondly, how do we ensure that the teacher is teaching the child the right, material, the right things? Because once you lay that foundation, once the child can string their words together, string their sentences together, do their sums, once you lay that solid foundation, you can build everything on it. So it's about quality. And today, and let me not lie to you, it's going to be hard to regain the innocence of the past. The only tool we have is technology. So for us, the secret of Edo Best is that we have a technology and technology partners, and don't look for the partner in government. They're not there. We have partners with the right technology that ensures that all the teacher is supposed to do in school is now being done using technology. So it doesn't matter how terrible the teacher is, as long as the teacher has common sense and you can train. Then you sit down and say, okay, you went to, you have NC, this is now how you now run your classroom. This is how you manage your classroom. And the technology tells me whether you're in school or not. So it's not those days you now need to go and fill the notebook or change the notebook to for attendance. No. If you are not in class at 8 o'clock, I know in my office, because you haven't logged into you have a handheld device. When you get into your class into school, you go to the head teacher's office and you synchronize your own system with the head teacher's system. So we know that you're in class that day. Then with your system, you take roll call of the children under your care. So we know whether a child is in school or not, because all that records come back. Because somebody is sitting back in the quality assurance section to mention, because once we see that the child has been absent from school for a certain number of days, then you go and look for that child and the parents to find out what has happened. That's how we found out some girl, Amina, brilliant young northern girl, disappeared for some time. We didn't find her, and they then went in and sniffed around. Just wondering, first to check that that child is not being abused, nothing dangerous has happened. And we then found that that child, who was barely 10 or 11, had been married away to somebody in Katsina. So, it helps us. You require the technology to help you know what is going on in the classroom. Thirdly, your lesson notes. You now don't have to sit down. It's already there. The pedagogy has been defined. But the system now helps and tracks that you completed your lesson notes. And by the time you've done that for 1-2 terms, the children are learning. And then the whole pedagogy has changed. And we've tried to make school fun. So the children want to come to school because the way they're taught, the class management is exciting for them. No more corporal punishments.
Obaseki consider say the world don't come out for certificate matter and na knowledge and skills na him dey reign now.
As far as we are concerned in Edo, and I hope our South brothers, think about it the way we are, it should not be about certificates again. It's about knowledge and skills. Because what is the point having a certificate and that cannot lead you to a job? And that's what we have. One of the biggest problems and challenges we have is that just to get children, right, graduates, to believe that we have job centers, to just go to those job centers and just apply is a problem. Because somewhere in their minds, they don't believe that they can get a job fairly. They're not trained to even go and look for work. They expect that the work will come and meet them. And in most of our communities, is that what we experience? That's why it's easy for traffickers, for criminals to come and recruit them. So the orientation, particularly when they're in school, giving them that inquisitive mindset and learning for them to go out to search for themselves in life is very, very important.
Honorable Gento Emela, when be the Commissioner for Education for Bayelsa State, contrary salute give Governor Obaseki for the ogbonge progress where Edo don make for education and say Bayelsa State they use eye copy the correct things when Edo they do for education.
Your Excellency, I must commend you for the innovations you brought into education in Edo State. Last year, precisely about November last year, I sent some delegations to your state to look into what you're doing at the primary schools. And we're able to gain some very useful technology. And as we speak, Your Excellency, Bayelsa State is keen in to what you're doing here with the Edo Best. And we are coming up with something in our state, Bayelsa Prime. Thank you for that. And by the wire classification, Edo State is doing well. You're leading us in terms of the external exams. The last classification placed Edo State as first. And we are proud to identify with you. You're doing the South-South proud. And also in that classification, Bayelsa came 9. So we have 8 steps to meet up with Edo State. And Looking at the expected years of schooling, the policy we are proposing is to ensure that children complete secondary education, measures that especially keeps girl child community-centered practice, learning for children, increase enrollment, especially among the girl child, the increased completion rate for secondary school education, and decrease the fertility for the girl child. It means we need to talk to parents and talk to the girls. Then on quality of learning, is to ensure that children have quality education by enriching the curriculum. And that by so doing, teacher professional development career will be emphasized. In my state, as we speak, we have teachers right now in camp that have been trained for the past 10 days. They are graduating today, the first set. Then script lesson plans that aligns all schools to curriculum. And what we expect at the end of the day is increased quality of education for all children, especially targeting the rural communities.
Head of Service for Edo State, Anthony Okungbawa Esquire, Konyan within Edo State government, they do to ginger civil servants for the states.
As of today, over 200 personnel have been employed by the Edo State government to improve the manpower strength of the health sector in order to deliver better healthcare services. Notwithstanding, in 2022, over 2,500 healthcare professionals in both private and public sector were trained on different aspects of healthcare provision, regulation, and quality assurance. In the labor sector, the Edo State government has invested heavily in the human capital development, and it is on record that since this administration came on board, there has been unprecedented recruitment of competent hands into the workforce of the state. Promotions are as and when due, salaries are paid as and when due, and pensioners are not left out as the Edo State government sees to it. Our pensioners receive their pensions every month. In addition, with the recent monetization, salaries of pensioners have been mopped up and are very well pleased. Pensioners are very well pleased with the Edo State government. May I mention that the Edo State government today is the only state that pays 40,000 naira as minimum wage. The Edo State government has seen to the establishment of 7 Edo job centers across 3 senatorial districts in the state. This has provided employability, skills development, career counseling, amongst others, for over 22,000 residents in the state. Over 42,000 Edo youth have acquired IT skills ranging from graphics and web development, artificial intelligence, data science and analytics, coding, cloud computing, etc., and employment within and outside the country through the Edo Innovation Hub and Edo Tech Park. These and many more are part of the interventions of the Edo State government in order to increase the indices of human capital development in Edo State.
Yosola Akimbi will be the coordinator for the core working group for human capital development. Matilda Megwa will represent the Minister of Labour and Employment, and Edo State Commissioner for Health, Professor Obeya Korea, and other Ogbonge people contribute mouth for this human capital development, especially for skills, employment, and health.
Mr. Governor, thank you so much for your commitment. I stand here and I'm so happy that we are all here today to be part of this history. And I say that with all seriousness, that this is really history indeed, and that Nigeria is moving to another phase. And that phase, I want us to look forward like 7 years and look at 2030 to where we really want Nigeria to be. We said we want Nigeria to move forward in terms of human capital development. This is part of the history. We're setting the tone today. I want you to congratulate yourself that you are part of the history today. Human capital development sits across multiple stakeholders, and we are all part of it. I want us all to spread the news. Let's begin to push for that HCD result. Let's begin to tell our friends, our colleagues, you know what? You are part of it because you have a constituency. We're going to launch that constituent project we have called SIMI very soon, which ensures that human capital goes to everybody's constituent. When you go home to your constituent, tell them, what are you doing about that out-of-school child? If we all get involved, what are you doing about that medical center? We just need a primary health care, just the minimum one, in your local government, in your constituent. If we take part in it, Nigeria will move forward.
Human capital development is very critical in solving all the problems we have around us. Whether it's the problem of using our resources, our natural resources. Nigeria is blessed with huge deposits of natural resources. Whether it's the problem of solving the climate change mandates, the problem of green gas emissions that we have, all the environmental problems that we have, we need human capital to solve those problems. And as we know, there is huge unemployment rate in Nigeria. Unemployment rate, underemployment, and unemployability. You know, some of our young people are not even employable, not because they are not good, but because of the problem of the limited opportunities that we now have in the white-collar jobs in which they have been trained. And so we are having huge unemployment rate because, yes, we have high population growth rate, but we also have misalignment of skills because of the misalignment of our educational system with the workplace. And so it is important then that as we move forward in human capital development, we align our training with the direction we should be going. Nigeria has a lot of resources, which means we should be getting into production. We should be setting up factories and industries that we need TVET skills, that we need technical and vocational skills. And that would then mean that we should be training our young people in technical and vocational skills so that they can serve our industries. And so, as we continue to expand the opportunities that we have within the human capital development, we're excited that one of the key focus areas in TVET, that there is a high focus on technical and vocational education. And we're hoping that we'll continue to expand our educational curriculum to embed the relevance of TVET skills and equip our people. And not just to train them, like we said yesterday, we need to train them and align them to jobs. And so our training needs to be very specific. If we are training for fashion industry, we need to find out what the needs of the fashion industry are, and then train people to go to fashion industry. If we are training them in welding, we need to find out the companies that are going to hire them so that we can train them and move them into welding. And so it's very, very exciting that we're having this strategic focus on human capital development.
We identified some areas of focus for our policy recommendations. The goal of the policy trust is to reduce stunting in children who are aged less than 5 years and to increase the quality of life between the ages of 0 and 49 months. To do this, we recommend that we domesticate, operationalize, and create sustainable funding pathways for the national policy on nutrition. And the initiatives that we will need to undertake include establishing quarterly coordination meetings to review data from various consultative fora, to create initiatives that will enable early identification of malnutrition in preschool children, to integrate mandatory growth monitoring into immunization programs. This used to be the practice, But the discussion we had yesterday was that because of the strain on the limited human resources, this is no longer being done. So we are recommending that we take advantage of the state and national immunization days when we have more healthcare workforce on ground to integrate growth monitoring interventions. We are also recommending that we leverage the workforce that is already existing in the educational system by training school teachers on the use of growth monitoring tools for the assessment of stunting in school-age children. And last but not the least, there is a need for us to revisit school health programs and ensure that they are up and running. For under 5 mortality, the policy goal is to increase access to postnatal care for mothers and babies. And we are recommending that we prioritize goals and targets in the PHC Leadership Challenge. The Nigeria Governors Forum, in collaboration with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, the Federal Ministry of Health, and other partners, have initiated the PHC Leadership Challenge with key thematic areas. And we feel that if state governments prioritize meeting these goals and targets, under 5 mortality will be addressed effectively. For specific initiatives, we recommend that PHCs be upgraded to ensure that the required equipments are available to provide service, and that accommodation and security coverage for all PHC centers, especially those in the rural areas, should be prioritized. With respect to adult survival, we recommend that the policy on family planning be domesticated in all our states. This is with a view to increasing access to and demand, and as well as uptake of family planning options. The proposed measures are to ensure continuous availability of family planning commodities in all our states at every level, to advocate for male participation in family planning, as we all know that in most places it is seen as the woman's prerogative. We are also doing this to be sure that we have increased demand and use of these commodities, and it has been said again and again, if we get family planning right, a lot of dividends will accrue to states, not only on the health front, but also on the economic and other social dimensions. For all health outcomes, we believe that states need to leverage private sector expertise, experience, financing, and technology to support the achievement of the HCD health thematic areas. And for this, the proposed measures are to identify viable programs for public-public and public-private partnerships in each fiscal year in all our states, and to encourage exchange of best practices between public and private health sectors in our states. The goal is that we will achieve positive change in health outcome indices, and the impact will be evident in the quality of lives of the people in our respective states. For the purpose of adult survival and retention of health workforce, we also recommend that compulsory life assurance policy coverage for healthcare workers be prioritized, and that adequate remuneration and incentives be provided to stymie the ongoing brain drain.
We're quite happy to be part of this summit. Particularly the areas of intervention are quite key to us: health, labor, and education. For health, we are interested in that area because, as you know, IOM operates a migration health assessment clinic And we believe strongly that migration is a tool for human development. And I'm happy to inform you that in a couple of months, we'll be opening another clinic in Edo State. We just have 2 in the country. We have in Lagos and we have in Abuja. And to ease mobility and to ease, because we have lots of people coming from Edo and the South-South region. So that would help a lot. I'm quite happy about that, and I want to thank you for this opportunity. And for those that have traveled, we wish you very safe journey back.
First, I just want to say that Nigeria is one of the few countries that we have seen in sub-Saharan Africa where a national vision was developed with the attention and leadership of the highest level. And this is really something that we should really treasure. There are only few countries that were able to do this, and to do it in a very participatory way involving all stakeholders at the national level. So this is really something that is important to keep. But national visions are as good as their implementation. So what's really critical is really translating this vision into implementation. And that's where the states come in. So the state action plan for human capital development is really the key component of really making this vision a reality. So this kind of really meeting to look at the progress that's made at the state level in implementing those action plans are commendable and really something that should continue in the future to come. The third point is really, this is something that you already know, but I just want to stress. Human capital is really embedded in people. And most of the time, the poor is probably, this is the only wealth. The only wealth that they have is their human capital. So when we talk about reducing poverty, it boils down really building the human capital of the poor. And most importantly, in really reducing the intergenerational transmission of poverty, that's poverty from parents to children, human capital is really critical. So looking at it beyond just the day-to-day service delivery in education, health services, and jobs, it's really important to look at a bigger picture where Nigeria can only reduce poverty if it invests on its people, especially on its poor. And we do know also human capital is built at all levels of the human capital, human life, is really more effective and efficient that this investment is done at early years, even before pregnancy, in terms of safe motherhood and safe delivery and early childhood development and nutrition. And for this, this is really something that has been done repeatedly yesterday also in other forums. It's really important that we focus on adolescent girls. If there is one silver bullet that will improve the outcome of really children, is an investment on adolescent girls. So this is really the fourth point I want to make. And finally, we also have to be mindful of really the impact of COVID. And this impact is yet to be seen in the coming decades and probably generations. It probably is hard to quantify it at this stage. But it's important that we get ready for the next pandemic. We don't know when it's going to hit, but it's important that we get ready. That readiness is really about developing a human capital, a human development system that's resilient to respond to such crisis. And in order to make this reality, is really, I cannot really stress this more, that it's important to have a national level coordinating body for human capital development. It's rare, it's hard to hide a national coordinating body because we have Ministry of Health, we have Ministry of Education, we have Ministry of Labor, we have all kinds of ministries, but it's rare to find a national coordinating body that brings all this together and focus on the system. And we do have that in Nigeria. It's really important that we maintain this in one way and another. It's really, I just want to stress really the importance of keeping this human capital development working group in one form or another.
I've never been more proud as I was yesterday to be from Edo State. Please allow me to brag a bit. All the reports that came out from the thematic areas, Edo was just hitting all the indices. We've really gone far and we've done very well in health, education, and labor force participation. Edo has done great, and I am happy about that. There was just one major policy thrust that came out from the brainstorming that took place yesterday, and it is increased investments in programs that boost skills and access to financing for youth and women. The major focus was on youth and women with all the people that spoke concerning labor force participation. And the potential impact of this is increased access to financing, increased gender parity through women-owned enterprises, and increased overall labor force participation for youth and adults. And I'm proud to say that in this particular area, Edo State again put out 2 billion naira for small and medium-scale enterprises to access funds to boost their businesses, especially for women across Edo State. It was a 57% rate for women against the males to give more women access to financial freedom as it involves their businesses. Now, the proposed measures for this is job creation programs, creation of job bureau backed by law. I'm happy to announce that the Edo State Skills Development Agency is backed by law. Build and strengthen entrepreneurial skills, micro and small scale initiatives through industrial skills and training centers. We already heard that Edo State has created 7 job centers across Edo State, 3 senatorial districts, and we have 68 skill acquisition centers across the state, and they are being refurbished currently to give every individual access to skills development and opportunity for job creation. Also, we have enforcing local content laws as the proposed measures, access to inclusive financing packages and linkages to markets, access to job market information. We have the job centers already providing this information. The job centers that we have across Edo State, providing job market information for anyone that is interested. And we're creating data along that path. So we have labor market information systems that is backed by data. And then finally, proposed measure, the last proposed measure is to reduce constraints to labor market participation for women, e.g. providing free schooling for their children. This is the policy that came out, the benefits, and then the proposed measures of accomplishment.
Omo Aluke Ajakaye, TMC TV News. Make una remember say your PVC and your power. Not say I'm giving a politician on election day.